Ready? Okay. So I submitted a big talk and a little talk, and I told the organizers that if they needed a big talk, they could select the big talk, and if they needed a little talk, they could use the little talk. And they picked both. So you get stuck with me a second time. Now, I thought initially that this would be a no slide presentation, but then I thought that you might want something with these two links in it. So I made this one slide. I presume that that's going to be published or something. Okay, so this all goes back to.
And can I ask you, when you show text, that you enlarge it a little bit for the online viewers?
Okay. Why is this not? There we go. You want this bigger?
Yes, if you can.
This should make it bigger. Say when.
There.
That good? Okay, so this goes back to a couple of years. There was this thread on the Ada Lang IO forum about a wish list. And there was a request for scope-based files, files that close when they get out of scope. And I thought, well, it's trivial to wrap a file type in a limited control type and overwrite finalize to close it if it's open. And if somebody really wanted that, they would expend the 10 minutes necessary to implement it. So I figured it must be something more complex. So I decided to try it at what that would look like. And if I can figure out how to get this to work, there we go. Is this good, or does it need to be bigger?
You can make it bigger.
Let's see. Is there zoom? No, that's not
normally
it.
if you press Control and 2 on top of the text, so click on the text and then Control with 2 fingers,
like that.
Yeah, maybe
that's a little too big.
If that's fine for you.
This is going off the edge. I guess I can get rid of this. All right, that's almost it. How much do I have over here?
That's a comma.
Just a comma. Okay, so we're good. So I came up with this as a candidate implementation of that. And it differs in a number of ways from the standard library, IO libraries that come with Ada. In one case, the file is indefinite, and so you have to supply an initial value, and there's these 3 functions here: opened, created, and opened or created, that give you one. Another thing is that input and output is defined for all files, as well as changing the position. I didn't say to do that. And by default, the I/O is done on bytes and lists of bytes. And it's basically based on Ada Direct I/O, but I suppose somebody who wanted to could base it on system level I/O. There's a body, which is pretty much what you'd expect. Then there's a child package called text, which does ada.txt.io type text input and output to these files. One difference is that in ada.txt.io, if your file ends with a null line and you have read all the other lines but that final null line and you call end of file, it returns true, even though there's an unread null line in there. And that does not happen with this one. This only returns, end of file returns true when you've consumed all the bytes in the file. And that end of line at the end of the last line is a byte or more in this kind of representation. And that and another thing is that this thing will read any sort of standard text file, line feed, carriage return, line feed pairs, or even the old Mac carriage return only. Which is why at some point here, yes, okay. If you look in the body here, there's a dealing with end of lines. If we find a line feed, then it's end of line. If we find a carriage return, then it's an end of line. But if it's not followed by a line feed, then we want to keep that next character. Undo read basically changes the position of the file to put that back for reading. Now you can, of course, change the position of your text file if you want. You can write in the middle of a text file. So there are no file modes because you do that via positioning. If you want to append, you position to the end. If you want to overwrite, you position to the beginning. And for those who are strange, there's this thing called universal text files, and that I dreamed up. And if you do positioning on these, that's not going to work very well because these use up to 3 bytes to encode a code point. They use as many bytes as is necessary to encode a line length at the beginning of each line. So if you change your position, you have no idea where you are relative to characters or lines. But like UTF-8, ASCII is encoded in 1 byte. And as I said, it's up to 3 bytes for any code point, whereas UTF-8 uses up to 4, so it is a more compact notation that no one uses. I didn't put the link, but on my GitHub there's an implementation of this as a standalone package that sort of defines how it works. And one of the things that I wanted after I did this and responded to that post online was to see if anybody thought this was useful. And nobody has gotten back to me one way or another. So, so if you guys have any thoughts on that, I would be interested in hearing it. And I guess that's it.
Oh, thank you then. Are there any questions here in the room? Yes, Alejandro? By the way, can you pick the mic?
Pardon?
The next line that returns a wide.
Yes.
Or how are you doing?
The encoding is line length followed by that many characters. So it'll read the line length and then read that, allocate a wide string of that many characters, and then read the code points and convert them to wide characters. No.
Okay.
This is universal text files, not Unicode text format or whatever UTF stands for in UTF-8. It's what you call acronym collision.
All right.
Are there more questions here in the room? I have one then. It would be, I see you have a precondition in that function. Are you trying to have some runtime checks enabled with those and do some tests? Or are you trying to prove that it actually works as you want it to work with the Spark?
You can do it either way. I'm just specifying that if you're at end of file, then something bad will happen.
So you treat it a little bit like documentation of the
yeah.
of the function.
Actually, I forgot these guys, didn't I? So here's a test program which copies a file using the binary I/O. It's very simple and straightforward. And you can copy a file with it and get the exact same set of bytes out of it. On the other hand, this one uses the text to copy a text file, and your output file will have LF line terminators. And so if your input file didn't have LF line terminators, the two files will differ slightly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Fabian, are there any questions online?
Yes.
No, we don't have questions.
Dirk is pointing out that there may be. There's a question from
See, if he's using a file system query like file exists in a precondition is open to race conditions and does not prevent the open operation from trying to open a file that no longer exists.
That's true. But it reduces the chances.
Do we have more questions or comments online?
There are some comments from, and I'm sorry, but I can't read the name because it's in Cyrillic, I presume, about that. I would say that it's like Delphi T tick stream reader, and I would need that in ADA 95 projects. Delphi T stream reader is an implementation of abstract T text reader over, and there are text reader writers for string builder and files. I miss that in Ada. Also, sometimes I think that standard library provides a better set of text primitives compared to Ada or Delphi T stream reader.
I'm not familiar with either.
Me.
Then
that's it.
thank you for this presentation, this small library.